What is going on, everyone? My name is JX, and welcome back to the channel. Today we have another mystery synergy over Cassandra Nova's Dark Mirror synergy. If you haven't seen my last video on Peter Pavarkar's mystery synergy, go check it out. It's going to be very similar to this, going over my spreadsheet, going over the mystery synergy, who's in the mystery synergy, what does it mean, and who, of course, can come to the game. Today's video has a lot of champions, compared to Peter's synergy, where it was kind of obviously a reference to the movie, and there's only like 2 characters we don't have that are main roster characters. This one is obviously more of a conceptual synergy, so we have to obviously look who's in the mystery synergy and who fits similar. So today is over Dark Mirrors. So Cassandra Nova, she's obviously the Dark Mirror Professor X, and of course we have other characters like the Maestro, who's a darker version of the Hulk, and of course Void, who's a darker version of the Sentry. If you've seen Thunderbolts, if you've seen obviously Deadpool vs. Wolverine, and you've seen the Maestro from Future Imperfect, or the Avengers game, or Contest, or Overseer, you know exactly who I'm talking about. So I have a ton of characters for this. I'm going to go over my main characters, and then of course honorable mentions, which my brother helped me write. So starting off pretty strong, we have Chasm. Now Chasm is Ben Reilly. Ben Reilly is the clone of Peter Parker. He has all of his memories, and sometimes he doesn't even know if he's the clone or if Peter's the clone, depending on the timeline, right? So I think the clone conspiracy was actually just mentioned last month's EQ. So Ben Reilly has a huge connection to the Contest of Champions, Marvel Realm of Champions, and he was first teased, I think, in MODOK Motions comic when Gabe Frazera left a little Easter egg of Scarlet Spider's mask, and I think Scarlet Spidey has just been mentioning in the dialogue of Contest, and he was a character in Marvel Realm. In Marvel Realm, we've got plenty of characters, even characters on this list that are from Marvel Realm as well. Now, why Chasm? So Chasm is the darker version, basically, of Ben and of Peter, because he's got this goo on him that basically kind of enhances his dark thoughts. A lot of similar to other characters on this list, but it basically, this goo allows him to make light constructs. It's really cool. It makes him like a Green Lantern. Like, he can just be like, boom, light attack, light attack, light attack, hammer, it's really interesting. So I think he would still stay in the science class. He has gotten like the scythe of Madelyne Pryor, who's on my list, but that's probably the only time he's had mystic powers. He's just, I think, would be a really cool addition to the game, because he's not just a generic Spidey clone. He's got his own abilities for the first time, which I think is awesome. It even reminds me of like Miles Morales, who got an upgrade with his lightning projections as well. So it's something that Kabam, I think, will be looking at, especially Marvel, because Marvel's been pushing him for like 2-3 years now in a row. And of course, the storyline he's a part of is literally called Broken Mirrors. So Dark Mirrors, Broken Mirrors, I'm just saying, it's pretty close. So he's probably my #1 spot, just with all the connections. Now, another character who has a lot of connections to Contest of Champions is Dark Beast. Now, he's basically the Age of Apocalypse Beast who survived and came to the main continuity timeline, and he's basically just evil. He loves he's just a geneticist who loves experimenting on himself unethically, as well as unethically on other mutants. So he's in the contest right now as a dialogue character. So this isn't the first time we've had a dialogue character come to the game later. Whether or not they remember they were already in the game, like Shuri, to name a few, Jean Grey. So it's just something we've seen where, they might not, some of them will have a model, but Dark Beast is using another version's model, the Beast we know and love, and then he's been, helping Morbius do his experiments. So he's a character already in the game, and he was in the Marvel Realm of Champions. So again, a lot of teases there. Now he's got some interesting powers. So in the comics, he has like a bandolier where he has injections on him. So I think like Diablo, he can kind of inject himself, like his concoctions, and then that could help him do different things. It could be different experiments, like he has to run. Like, hey, maybe, if I do 15 hits or something like that. There's some really cool gameplay mechanics that someone could design. He's a cyborg, so they can give him spider legs if they want. They could give him tech weapons, kind of like Forge. But yeah, I'm super interested to see kind of what Kabam would do if he came to the game. Now, another character who's extremely popular like Chasm, and is in fact just returning to the comic books, is Malice. Now, I literally just went to my comic shop last week, and they have this in store. This is the concept art for Marvel Rivals, and she's making her return in the comics literally just recently. Now, Malice is the darker persona of Susan Storm. In fact, during a comic book line with another character I'll get over later, she kind of emerges and even gets out of Susan Storm's head, later returns, but she's all about the dark personality, and she uses Susan Storm's abilities the complete opposite way. Instead of helping the Fantastic Four, making protective bubbles, she uses her powers to make sharp needles, very similar to another Mystic character in the game, who makes the sharp needles against, like Doctor Strange. You guys know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so she uses her powers that way. So there's a lot of abilities they could do, even if staying as a science character. She could definitely is going to be like maybe Deathless, where they kind of use an existing kit to look at, and even make her, right? So that we already have definitely characters that are darker versions of playable characters. So with her out of the way, we have another character I think is really awesome, and that is Magus. Now, of course, when I mentioned Malice, during that storyline where she returns to Susan Storm, is Magus. Now, Magus is an alternate future version of Adam Warlock, the darker personality of Adam Warlock. He is completely a sorcerer. Like, I just want to point that out. He is cosmic, but he's more of a sorcerer, and I think he would be doing a lot of darker experiments and doing a lot more meta stuff that could be working in contest. Now, we have the movie version in game, but we don't have the comic book version. So I think Magus would obviously be this Adam Warlock that we didn't get, and would obviously even just be the twisted version of it. So there's a lot of they can do with spell casting, even resurrection, projection manipulation, energy manipulation, like the list goes on. He's a really cool character in the comics, and I think he could really impact. Dude, he could literally have his own saga. To be honest, like that's how cool of a character he could be. So my last main character is going to be Madelyne Pryor. Now, Madelyne is the clone of Jean Grey, so kind of like Chasm, who I mentioned. In fact, these two have a connection because Chasm got the scythe of Madelyne Pryor, and they kind of connected over being clones, being twisted now, but their dark emotions and whatnot. So Madelyne Pryor is a mutant clone, so she'd still be a mutant. I want to point that out, but she does have hell powers thanks to Limbo. Kind of why Magic's in the Mystic class. I think Madelyne would probably stay in the Mutant class, but have magic abilities because she's Jean Grey, but with a little bit of magic. But she still uses all of Jean Grey's abilities, just completely differently, just like Malice. And Madelyne Pryor, of course, in X-Men 97, super popular. Now, today we're going to go over the honorable mentions real quick. Now, my brother, he wrote these for me to kind of like help how these characters could fit into the game. So we're going to go over Horseman Gambit. If you haven't seen X-Men 97, I think this is kind of what they're teasing with the death of Gambit. Horseman Gambit, being resurrected by Apocalypse, he has his own abilities, but enhanced by Apocalypse. And of course, he's mind controlled by Apocalypse, but he's also the Horseman of Death. So he can kind of convert the air into poison, and he's all about, trying to, kill the opponent with death and collect them. I think this would be a really cool, fun thing. Again, we've seen twisted versions of characters, and even like a whole Horseman saga would be something that's be really interesting. But besides that, he's a very limited character in the comics, so there's not much to go on, but, a darker, twisted Gambit, right? Compared to another dark twisted version, we're going to go over Superior Spider-Man. He's a character I have had on my predictions before because I think at the time Marvel were really pushing him. Not so much recently, but he's definitely a character where it's Dr. Octopus in Peter Parker's body. And when he tries to be like Spider-Man, but he just doesn't hold back at all. And then he kind of learns his own way. He starts using spider bots because he's like, I can have them all around the city and help me be Spider-Man. And he's got his obviously his mechanical arms, which we've seen on Citalis, we've seen on Clairvoyant, but we don't have an Iron Spider in the game. And I think him being I think he's got more powers, in my opinion, than Iron Spider, so I think he'd be a more interesting character, doing, more villainous attacks against the opponent would make him interesting, obviously like the Maker. So yeah, I think he'd be a really cool character. And my last honorable mention is Hydra Captain America, my least favorite on this list, to be honest. He's a character already influenced by contest. Have you seen his green and yellow Hydra Civil Warrior suit? That was an official crossover with Kabam in comic books, and so he got Civil Warrior's design. It got destroyed, but it was, powered by the Tesseract, and he's now Flag Smasher. He's had the serum, then he lost the serum. I don't know what they could do with him. They could make him tech if they wanted. We already have two Tesseract characters in the game with Maestro and Red Skull. And, you know, I don't know. They could do some interesting stuff with him. But that's my list. I hope everyone enjoyed this video. If there's someone I missed that you think I should have on this list, let me know in the comments. If there's something you have a cool idea for a character, let me know. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great rest of your day.